And then there were walls. The guys poured the walls on Tuesday. Everything went smoothly. No major issues or concerns, which is always a breath of relief if you've ever poured concrete before. The next step for me personally is I have to go around and I have to seal all of the form ties. These ties keep the forms the desired width apart. So when the concrete is placed between them, the concrete wants to push the forms apart, but these ties actually will hold them at the desired width. Typically it's 8 inches for a foundation wall such as this, but you can have different width ties for different applications. So what I have to do is I have to go around and I'm just putting a sealant. In this case it's a plastic cement that's designed for this. So I'm just going to each hole or each tie and I'm just putting a dab of this on it and just pushing it into place. And what that does is it protects this metal tie from corroding over time. Obviously it's metal, and if it's below grade and is exposed to any amount of water, that water can rust that metal tie, and that metal tie goes straight through the wall. So if you don't seal those properly, there's a potential for a chance of those leaking. We're just trying to do stuff that's, proactive or preventative of causing issues down the road and planning ahead. So this is standard on all of our builds. There are 5 holes for every 2 feet of panels, so at a minimum, there's a lot of holes. So I've got my work cut out for me. I just picked away at it last night for maybe a half an hour, just get started on it, and yeah, there's tons left. But once I get all those sealed up, then we will put on the foundation waterproofing. I'll snap a line at the desired height, somewhere between 6 and 12 inches from the top of the concrete. It only needs to go up as high as the grade is going, and I will actually more or less cut it in as if I was painting, and then you can just roll right down to the bottom, and we're going to roll directly over the footing as well. We're going to do a delta wrap, which is like a dimple membrane on the 8-foot sections of the wall where we're more likely going to have some hydrostatic water pressure, which is basically when water is in the soil and it has nowhere to go, it pushes basically in all directions. And what can happen is it can pass through your concrete foundation, especially if it's not waterproof correctly. So what this dimple board does is it acts as a barrier. So any water that hits it runs directly down it. But if water were to get in behind it, it gives it a clear path to just drain straight down and essentially into our footing drain. So our footing drain is going to be a perforated pipe that runs the perimeter of the house at the elevation of the footing. What that does is it collects any of the water that may accumulate at the bottom of your foundation, and it is all going to be sloped to the lowest point and take that water away from the house. That just makes sure that you're not getting any amount of water building up, which would increase kind of that hydrostatic water pressure and potentially cause some moisture issues in your basement. So it's not required to use like a dimple board. We typically try to suggest it to the homeowner. It's relatively inexpensive, and like all things so far in this project, it's cheaper to do now than later. You want to be as preventative as possible, so putting it on now saves us a lot of money if we had to do it later. The front section of this house, or the driveway side of this house, has a porch, so in order to excavate and put that dimple board on, should we have problems down the road, would be a tremendous amount of work. So definitely don't want to do that. The dimple wrap is pretty cheap, so putting it on now to me is a no-brainer. I've experienced wet basements before, and yeah, it's never fun. So that's kind of where things are at. Got some work this week to do myself before the excavation crew comes back in. We've got the foundation waterproofing, we've got the footing drains, and we've got the rain leaders that we're going to do before we backfill. And once we backfill, we'll move on to the interior of the foundation and get ready for subslab plumbing. So that will be coming up the following week. Today is Sunday, so it won't be happening this week, but it will be happening next. Cheers.